They reach the ruins of an old building and Shin tells her what happened on the day he went to defeat the final boss of the game, and how he came here without his will. Rai also remembers that the dungeon suddenly disappeared, and so did the masters of other NPCs. She knew that Shin had cleared the game, but since she did not disappear, she believed that he was still in the game. Since that day, Rai and Shin's other NPC Servast have been looking for him all over the world. Shin then suddenly asks Rai to stop calling him master, because it would be chaotic if anyone heard a legend like her calling a seemingly normal guy her master. He asks her to call him by his name, and Rai blushes as she does that. Even Shin feels a bit weak in the knees on hearing her call his name. She then asks about his next step and Shin says that he is going to investigate a sacred site he read about in the library. Rai asks if he plans to return home, and when Shin affirms, she feels betrayed and sad. She knows that it was the expected answer, and accepts it without complaining. Shin changes the topic and asks how much does she remember from the game, and she replies that she remembers everything. She claims that after he cleared the game and all the players vanished, she became more aware of herself. She and the other NPCs were partially aware during the game too, but they were not fully conscious and could not take independent actions. They watch the sunrise, and after that they decide to return to their shop. However, before that, Rai wants to know about Yuzu. Shin tells her that Yuzu is his partner and an elemental, and Rai says that she knew that the fox was special just by looking at her tails, but could not guess that she was an elemental. Shin expresses surprise at this because he hadn't noticed anything. He lifts Yuzu up, and for the first time notices that she has 3 tails. If that wasn't enough of a surprise, Yuzu suddenly tells him good morning, and Shin freaks out. The fox reveals that her mind cleared after the large monster yesterday disappeared. Things make sense to Shin now, and he forbids Yuzu from talking in front of people, so she decides to talk to him through telepathy. Rai believes that her 3 tails will be a problem, but Yuzu can easily merge them into one to pretend to be a normal fox. Shin praises her, and as Yuzu basks in his praise, Rai finds her unbelievably cute. Shin understands her hesitation and lets her pet and cuddle with the fox, and Rai says that it is the first child elemental she is seeing because all others were adults. They decide to depart to the capital with that. Meanwhile, Will has been running all night while carrying Rash on his back, and she is worried about Shin. He tells her that Shin will be fine, and then suddenly, he feels something speeding towards them. He stops and turns around to face whatever is coming towards them, only to find that it was just Shin and Rai. Rash faints from a panic attack, and even Will is not happy that Shin gave them a jump scare. On the other hand, the princess and her guards come across the huge hole in the ground caused by Shin's attacks. The princess thinks that this hole in the ground is connected to the appearance of the magic circle in the air that destroyed all the skeleton monsters. She wonders who could have done that when one of her knights comes there with the sword Shin used to cast the earth-shattering skill. The knight shows the princess a falcon symbol on the hilt of the sword, and states that a very skilled swordsmith puts this symbol on the weapons he creates. He demonstrates that despite being damaged, the sword is powerful enough to split the ground with barely any effort from his side. The knight says that he has heard that there was only one blacksmith in the world who could forge swords this powerful. Legend has it that he was a high human and was called the Peerless Black Swordsmith. The princess remarks that there are no high humans left in the world, and the knight agrees. However, all he wanted to express was that the warrior behind the incident must be someone insanely strong and rich for treating a sword made by a high human like a disposable. The princess suddenly recalls that the Black Blacksmith was the original owner of the shop called Moon Sanctum that Rai operates. She plans to visit the shop once they reach the capital, and the knight asks her what she plans to do if the high human is really back. The princess laughs, saying that she would like to challenge him, and maybe get him to marry her. On the other hand, Will confronts Shin and asks him to reveal his secrets now. Shin tries to give Rai the credit for defeating the giant skeleton monster, but Will points his spear at him, asking him to stop lying. He begins stabbing at Shin, saying that it was obvious that he is the strongest person here because he was spamming powerful moves earlier, and he even caught up to them so quickly. Shin can only dodge his stabs as he asks him to stop. He finally comes clean and reveals that he is a high human, and also Rai's master. Will believes him easily, and then Shin asks him if there are any records about high humans in this world. Will tells him that there are many records that talk about how insanely strong and skilled high humans used to be, and they are still worshipped as gods by many people. Shin says that those stories can be a problem, but he really believes that his blacksmithing skills are legendary. Soon, Rash wakes up, and as she looks at Shin, she panics and asks if he is fine. She then notices the white-haired elf, and upon learning that she is Rai, Rash starts fangirling over her. The very next moment, she is hit by motion sickness because of being carried at super speed all night long. Will carries her on his back again while Shin apologizes for it. They plan to go their separate ways once they reach the gate, and Shin gives Will some of his magical letters to contact him immediately if something happens. Will warns him that if he uses these letters, he would be in a very serious situation, and tells Shin to rethink it. Shin realizes that Will doesn't want to involve outsiders in his problems, but he pushes the letters on him, remarking that he can't leave him alone after they have come together all this way. Will decides to take up the letters, and then leaves for the church. Shin and Rai also head back to their shop, where Tiara comes running to greet Rai. She nervously explains to her about the man who came to their shop, claiming to be Rai's friend, without noticing that the man in question is standing right there. After Rai helps her calm down, Tiara notices Shin, who says that they should have dinner before talking about their circumstances. Tiara asks why should she let him eat dinner with them, and then Rai decides to introduce Shin as the true owner of their shop. Tiara freaks out on hearing this, but she cannot argue with Rai's judgment. She apologizes to Shin for not recognizing him earlier, and he tells her to not be so serious. He also introduces Yuzu to Tiara on the same note, and she is shocked to see a talking fox. Soon, Rai prepares a full-course meal for Shin, and Tiara is surprised about the ingredients because the food seems to be covered in a faint aura. Shin says that the meat in the dishes is from strong monsters like Thermal Lion and Orc King, and even the vegetables are some rare items. Tiara once again freaks out on hearing the name of all rare and legendary class ingredients, but Shin ignores her concerns and asks Rai about aura. She replies that aura is the remnant of mana in the ingredients, and it is often seen with powerful monsters and rare plants. They begin dinner with that and truly relish everything. Later, Rai tells Shin that all the other NPCs are living their lives separately. They initially thought about searching for him, but then decided that he would be fine no matter where he was, so they just decided to wait patiently for him. Shin appears a bit melancholy on hearing this, and then suddenly, the drunk Tiara starts telling him that he is too serious. Rai takes her to bed, while Shin also heads to his bedroom that has not changed at all ever since he left it. Yuzu has already fallen asleep, and Shin also changes into comfortable clothes to go to sleep. He feels drowsy the moment he plops on the bed, and wakes up in the middle of the night, feeling a heavy weight on his chest. As he opens his eyes and looks around, he finds Rai sleeping next to him. Shin panics on seeing her so close and his heart starts pounding uncontrollably. He gently touches her face, and Rai starts crying while calling out his name. He can only wipe her tears and apologize to her in his mind. When morning comes, Shin finds that Rai is no longer sleeping next to him, but then he notices some unfamiliar white hair next to him. He lifts his blanket to see what is happening and finds that Yuzu has turned into a human. As she gets up lazily, Shin freaks out on seeing her bare body, and as she rushes to hug him, he fears that the FBI may come for him. He then gives her some clothes suitable for elementals to wear. Later, they head to the kitchen to meet Rai and Tiara, who are surprised to see Yuzu in her human form. She nervously greets them, and then all of them have breakfast. After that, Shin asks Yuzu about the shrine she was at, and the symbol drawn on the floor. She doesn't know anything apart from the fact that she felt less uncomfortable within the symbol as compared to any other place, and Shin begins to inspect her answer for any clues. He then asks Yuzu what was she doing there, and she replies that she was just napping in the sun, when suddenly, a natural disaster shook the place, and she tried her best to stop it. She got exhausted by expending all her power, and then went into the shrine to rest. When she thought that she was going to die, Shin came there and rescued her. Shin says that he could only save her thanks to Millie, and Yuzu wants to thank her with a gift. Rai suggests that they take an elven bread made by Tiara as their gift, because it is the top product of their shop. Shin remarks that they are a weapon shop and not a restaurant, but Rai reminds him that he is the only one who can open the armory, so they couldn't restock it in his absence. Shin understands and decides to immediately put the shop back on track. Rai then tells him that there is something more urgent than the shop, and it is about another NPC named Gerard. Shin is shocked to learn that Gerard is still alive, because he is a high beast who can live only up to 150 years. Rai replies that he may not have much longer to live, and he is still waiting for him to come back. Rai then explains that Gerard was the one who united various beast tribes and formed the Farned Beast Alliance and became its first king. She explains that currently, the alliance is ruled by the 8th king, so Gerard can wait for him. Shin confirms that Gerard is not in any immediate danger, and then decides to travel normally to meet him. Rai and Yuzu are obviously going to come with him, and Tiara says that she will mind the shop. However, Rai tells her that she doesn't need to stay behind, because now that Shin is here, he can carry the shop with him. The elf girl doesn't understand, but Shin asks her to travel with him now that she is finally free from her curse. She gladly agrees, and Shin says that they should start preparing for their journey now. He thinks about the food and equipment they need to buy, and Rai remarks that she must report about the Skullfaces to the Empire as well, so she will need to act independently for some time. Shin has no problem with that, and he plans to level up as an adventurer on the way to Farned. Rai tells him to form a party with her, because then they can always communicate with each other using telepathy. Shin is surprised to learn about this feature and adds Rai to her party, and then suggests Tiara to also register as an adventurer. Before that, Shin heads to his forge and tells the excited Yuzu to not touch anything because some weapons may be cursed. Since everything is in working condition, he makes some swords, but the first sword turns out to be too good for this world. Shin knows that he can't sell something like this, so he decides to try less harder in the following attempts. He succeeds in making some fine swords to sell at his shop, and then Tiara comes there, ready to go out. They exit the forest and enter the market, which completely takes Tiara by surprise, as she has never seen so many people collected in one place. She asks Shin whether this place is usually this crowded, and Shin replies that the rush hours haven't even started yet. Every single thing in the market makes her curious, as she hasn't been out for 100 years at this point. She excitedly tells Shin that they should go to the guild quickly and get her registered. Shin takes her to the guild, where they meet the receptionist, who immediately tells Shin that he has been ranked up to E. Shin is confused because he hasn't even completed a single quest yet. But the receptionist replies that his exploits are well known at this point, as he defeated the giant skeleton monster before, and then was spotted defeating a huge horde of skeletons. She claims that he should be ranked up to it at once, but if they do it, it will create a lot of turmoil as the other adventurers won't like it. He claims that he doesn't mind that when suddenly the receptionist's face changes as she asks who the hell is with him, as she looks at Tiara with jealous eyes. She claims that they were seen holding hands and asks whether he is in love with her. Both Tiara and Shin get embarrassed as he claims that there is nothing like that. He then tells her that he is planning to go to the place called Farid and inquires whether there are any quests to be done on the way. The receptionist immediately takes out a huge register and flips through the pages and claims that there is indeed one quest, which is to escort a carriage to Farid, and asks whether he would like to take it. He immediately accepts it, and they both head out to explore the market a little bit. This basically becomes a date more or less as they walk through the markets, looking at all the different things being sold in the area. Shin then asks her whether she wants to check the church out, and Tiara agrees, so they head towards the church, where they spot Rash involved in child labor as she cleans the ground. She immediately runs over to Shin and greets him warmly before asking who the girl is. Shin explains that her name is Tiara and she works at the Moon Sanctum. This really shocks the girl, who runs over to Tiara and asks whether she knows Rai or not. Tiara explains that Rai is her master, which makes Rash's eyes gleam with excitement as she asks her all about how Rai is as a master and a person. Some time later, they enter the church, where Millie immediately starts playing with Yuzu and thanks him for coming here. Meanwhile, Rash thanks him for helping her the other day, as because of that, she has been appointed as the next priest of the church, and everyone is happy. Shin asks where Will is, as he has not seen him around. They reply that Will has gone out to investigate the other priest candidate, as he suspects that there is something going on which might cause problems for the church. Shin then produces some magical charms that he created with his magic infused in it and asks them to keep it near them. Suddenly, the door opens and the other kids enter the room, immediately swarming Shin as they all want to meet with him. Tiara is also not left alone, as she gets kids all around her and doesn't even know how to deal with them. Some time later, they exit the church as Rash thanks them for meeting up with them and promises to protect the church as much as she can. They bid farewell and head back to the guild, where the receptionist was ready with Tiara's adventurer's card. They take it and head out once again as a successful day starts coming to end. He takes Tiara into a dark alleyway out of eyesight and produces a beautiful crystal claiming that they can straight up teleport with this crystal. Tiara is beyond shocked at this and asks what is he even talking about. Shin claims that it's just normal teleportation magic, while Tiara tells him that teleportation itself is a completely lost magic that hasn't been performed in ages. He tells her to get used to it as they start teleporting and immediately arrive in front of the moon's sanctum. She is still a bit shaken up by the teleportation when Shin quickly transforms the moon's sanctum into a portable form as a necklace, claiming that now they can take it wherever they want. A little while later they head out of the city gates and find a carriage alongside a weird alligator guy standing in front of it. It turns out that the alligator guy's name is Guy, and alongside a girl called Baki, they have also taken the same quest to escort the carriage. Soon enough the owner named Nak comes and greets them warmly, and soon they start traveling through the forests in silence. While traveling they end up making small talk as Guy asks them whether they have killed any men before. This surprises Tiara, who looks at Shin, and he tells her that usually these escort missions have to deal with bandits who are human and not monsters. The redhead claims that no one takes her seriously because of her size and her gender, but she has beaten the crap out of a good many guys. They introduce their classes, and it turns out that Guy is a samurai class, a rank just like Shin, while Baki is a brawler and rank E. Shin realizes that Guy must be sufficiently strong to be rank O, and feels a little better about the mission when suddenly the carriage stops. They get out to find themselves surrounded by bandits looking at them. Shin tells Nak to head back inside the carriage and tells Yuzu to protect him. The bandits seem to have a lot of confidence as they start making fun of them and passing comments on the redhead, who seems unfazed by it. Tiara is hiding behind the carriage all this while thinking whether she could ever kill a human when she suddenly realizes that Shin seems different as he is seething with anger at the comments passed by these men. Suddenly she notices a couple of other men hiding behind the trees to ambush them. Guy tells them to back off as he doesn't want to kill unnecessarily, but the leader is confident and knows that he is the only a rank adventurer, while the rest are rank E and lower. Shin realizes that they must have some inside information, as this is not a random attack. But before the bandits attack, an arrow goes past one of them, and then another arrow flies, killing both of the hidden men. The leader is surprised that they got found, but the fight resumes. One of the guys runs at the redhead, who simply ducks below and delivers a massive uppercut that knocks the guy out, which scares them. Guy immediately follows up as he slices through both the guy and his sword with surprising ease. Two guys try to attack Shin together, but he easily cuts through them without any issue before walking towards the leader. The leader is still confused as these rank E adventurers should not be this strong, but Shin immediately cuts through his sword and beats the crap out of him before tying him up. He puts his sword at his throat and asks who the hell told him about them when Tiara grabs Shin from behind and puts him between her massive plots, which calms him down a bit and his deadly intent goes away. Shin is completely surprised at this, while Tiara gets embarrassed thinking that she just did it because Rai does it to calm her down. Meanwhile, Shin is looking at her confused before he decides what to do with this bandit leader. They decide to move forward and sat inside the carriage happy that everything went according to the plan and neither the carriage nor the owner got injured. Guy tells Shin that he was able to extract some info from the bandits, and according to him, they were appointed by some mysterious group of people who told them to capture the carriage as they wanted an item connected to the church. This all is very weird as usually bandits are only after money. But Guy explains that the bandits themselves had no idea what that item is, so their plan was to simply capture the entire carriage and take it with them. Suddenly Shin remembers how while in the church, the sister told him that some of the senior officials of the church are very corrupt and power-hungry and wonders whether this is their work. Despite whatever the reason was, he is simply happy that he ended up taking this quest, which was purely a coincidence, but now he might be able to dig deeper in this issue with the church. Finally, they reach the city and the quest ends as the Short King hands them their scrolls, which can be given to the guild as the proof of completing their quest so that they can get their money back. They thank Nak for the quest and Nak thanks them for helping him arrive safely in the city, as if it was not for the four of them, he would have probably died at the hands of those bandits. After Nak leaves, Shin asks Guy and Baki what their plans are, and Guy replies that they will be heading back to their own city immediately, while Shin replies that he needs to go ahead to the city of Farnid from here. Guy bids them good luck and hopes that their paths meet again before leaving with Baki, while Shin and Tiara move ahead in their own path. He asks Tiara how she liked the trip in the carriage, as he wonders how to move forward from here as Farned is still a long way off. She claims that the carriage was pretty comfortable, and he agrees. Soon he decides that they should simply buy a carriage, as that would be the most efficient and comfortable way to reach Farned. They both enter a huge area, lined with tons of carriage, which all look the same to Shin, so he starts scheming about how he will modify them completely. But Tiara tells him to go easy as they need to buy one first. She asks what kind of carriage is he looking for, and he claims that he is trying to find a carriage big enough to sleep and to carry all their stuff with them. He plans to modify the carriage anyways, as he doesn't like how unstable and shaky they are. Tiara also believes that it would be a great relief to not get carsick in the carriage, and they start looking for one. Finally, Tiara spots a fancy-looking carriage with flowers and shit, and she directs Shin's attention towards it, claiming that it's pretty, but also big enough that they can all travel together alongside Rai if they want to. The dealer walks up to them and asks whether anything interests them, and Shin immediately tells him that he wants to buy that fruity carriage and tells him that he needs it ready by tomorrow. The dealer smiles and asks whether he has gotten horses to pull the carriage, but Shin replies that he hasn't gone through with it yet. The dealer looks at him and advises him to get 2 big horses with strong feet, as the carriage is pretty heavy and cannot be pulled by a weak-ass horse. Shin thinks about how expensive that would be and asks the dealer about the carriages pulled by monsters that he has seen a couple of times. The dealer replies that monsters are much stronger and faster than horses, so one of them would be enough to pull this carriage. But to do that, he will have to tame a monster first, which is incredibly difficult. He tells him not to worry about it and get the carriage ready as he leaves alongside Tiara, wondering where he can find a monster, but thinks that bottom line, he can simply use Yuzu as the monster to pull his carriage. Suddenly, he gets a notification from Rai, who tells him that her work inside the kingdom has been completed and asks what's up with them. Shin replies that they are in the city of Bay right now, and just bought a carriage for further travels to Farned. He claims that they still need a monster to pull it, but Rai tells him not to worry about it, as she will get the monster for them. She tells Shin to wait till tomorrow, as she is hurrying over to Bay to join them, but it will take her at least one day. He tells her not to worry about it and come at her own pace. Rai also discloses to him that the kingdom was in a state of uproar, as they found out that the moon sanctum has been disappeared. Shin never thought it would have such a huge effect on the royals, but Rai claims that they were trying to flatter her and talk sweetly so that she joins the royal army, but she refused and left. Shin claims that it must be hard for her constantly dealing with people who want to use her power, while Rai claims that one time a country tried to claim the moon sanctum for themselves, and she was very close to completely destroying that country at that time. Shin tells her to chill out and meet them tomorrow and cuts the call, while Tiara calls him over to a bong shop as she liked one of the bongs. Shin is against drugs, so he tells her to shut up as he asks the old stoner lady about any decent places to stay, and she immediately recommends them a place that she swears by. They reach the location only to find a huge hotel in front of them that looks ludicrously expensive. They enter inside nonetheless and ask the receptionist whether they have any rooms available. The receptionist immediately asks whether they will need a couple's room, but they get embarrassed and decline immediately, claiming that they will take 2 single rooms. Seems like they have more integrity than my ex-girlfriend. Shin opens his room to find a beautiful chamber filled with decorated furniture and a beautiful bed. He closes the door while Yuzu hops onto the bed and converts into her lowly form. She asks whether she can talk now, and Shin gives her the go-ahead. Later he realizes that there is still some time for dinner, so he decides to maintain his weapons till that time while Yuzu plays around. A little while later, as he was finishing up his maintenance, Tiara knocks at his door and walks in, asking when will Rai be arriving. Shin answers that she should arrive tomorrow, but he doesn't really have the exact timings when she will come. Tiara claims that if they don't have anything to do, then they should simply relax, and he agrees and calls room service with dinner. After dinner, he tells them that he is going to take a warm bath and then hit the sack, to which Tiara replies that she will do the same. Yuzu immediately asks whether they can take a bath together, and she agrees, but instead of going into her room, Yuzu ends up dragging her into Shin's bathroom, where they start taking a shower. Shin walks up to the window and starts looking out the window, wondering about tomorrow, while Rai was outside in the forest and finally found a monster worthy to be her mount. The next morning, Shin wakes up with Yuzu on his face, and he walks outside to meet with Tiara. After checking on the carriage, he starts modifying the axle and adds some suspension to it, which surprises both Yuzu and Tiara. Soon he gets a notification from Rai, who tells him that she is outside in the forest and tells him to meet her there. He takes Tiara and starts walking through the forest when both he and Yuzu feel a strong presence nearby. They come out into the clearing and are shocked to see Rai with a huge demonic beast standing by her. This demonic divine wolf has a level of over 750, so he asks where did she find it. Rai nonchalantly explains that she found him in the sacred mountain where the most dangerous beasts live. He tells her that this beast is too big for the carriage and might draw unwanted attention. But Rai planned for that and tells the beast to shrink in size, which it does to become a little bigger than a horse. Soon the monster starts hitching their wagon along at a very high speed, which seems to excite Shin, while Tiara comments about how comfortable the carriage is after the modification. Rai agrees with it, claiming that she has been on the royal carriage multiple times, but this carriage is somehow much better than that. While they were traveling, Yuzu starts talking to the beast in their language and explains that he used to live in the sacred mountains alongside his mother. But one day an adventurer killed her and he was left alone, injured and afraid. Just when he was about to give up, a very kind elf girl saved him and gave him the strength to train and become stronger. He surprises everyone after that by revealing that the elf girl is none other than Tiara, as he recognizes her smell. Tiara at first doesn't remember, but suddenly realizes that 100 years ago she did save a small puppy once and nursed it back to health. Rai finds this story so heartwarming that she decides to transfer the ownership to her. They get of the carriage and Rai touches the beast and revokes her ownership, making him a free divine monster once again. After that, Tiara moves ahead, scared at first, but then manages to tame it and names it Shimmer. That night everyone sleeps while Rai tells Shin that now Tiara can choose her own path if she wants, and they can rest easy, knowing that Shimmer will protect her. The next day they start traveling through a very lush forest when the carriage stops as two people walk towards them. They ask whether they are Rai and Shin, and starts taking them to Gerard, who became the first beast king of the area. His village seems to be beautiful and prospering as they enter it, and once inside his house, they are escorted to a room. They enter the room only to find two beastmen sitting beside their old fellow Gerard, who looks at them happily and tells Shin that he never saw he will see him again. Shin tells Gerard that he had also not thought of seeing him again, and the old guy just laughs it off. He says that the reason he is still alive after all this time has remained a mystery to him too. After that, Gerard decides to introduce the beastmen in the room. First is Wolf, the current king of Farned, and his daughter Kor. The elephant dude is Van, Gerard's right-hand man, and the turtle-like guy is Rajam, his left hand. Shin introduces himself too, and Gerard tells him to stop being so formal and speak normally. Shin asks him to start speaking normally first because Gerard never used to call him master in the past. The old man just laughs it off and decides to obey Shin, because that is the only way he can ease the tension in the minds of other people in the room. Shin doesn't quite understand him, and Gerard explains that to the people of this world, high humans like him are legendary beings who must be feared and worshipped. Soon after that, Gerard and Shin start talking about the old times when they used to fight huge hordes of monsters by themselves. They laugh about how reckless they used to be back then. Gerard wants to tell Shin what happened in the 500 years he was missing, and he replies that Rai already told him about Gerard founding the nation of Beastmen. He is not happy with that, because he was planning on boasting about his achievements to Shin. Rai says that she knew he would exaggerate things, so she told their master about the things objectively. Shin simply laughs about it, and then Rai leaves to brew some tea. In the meantime, Gerard asks Shin to tell him more about where he was in the 500 years, and he tells him whatever he can remember. They keep chatting till evening, and then suddenly, Gerard gets serious. He tells Shin that it is time to get down to business. Gerard reveals that he doesn't have long to live, and Shin is taken aback by the suddenness of the news. Gerard believes that he only has about a month left, and Shin asks how can he be so sure. He says that for the past few weeks, he had been feeling odd, and then he learnt about Shin's return from Rai. That was when all his doubts were solved, and he realized that since his master was back, time started flowing normally for him again. Gerard believes that it was almost as if he was waiting just for Shin to return so that he could die in peace. He says that maybe the gods of this world have heard his prayer. He then faces Shin and asks him for a duel, saying that it is his last wish. Shin wonders if Gerard wants to die in a battle like a proper warrior. Gerard wants to see how he compares against a legendary high human that he once fought besides. Seeing the determination in his eyes, Shin accepts Gerard's request. Rai also hears this, and she is not happy about it, so she simply walks away. Shin then asks him if he has any regrets left, and Jurart says that the only regret is that they have not dueled, and that will also be erased soon.